She said, "I'm too big to breed with a human." But he didn't let go. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Coalition was never quiet. Even silence there felt heavy, like pressure before a storm. Rows of alien leaders filled the vast chamber. Tall ones, wide ones, glowing ones, armored ones. Creatures from worlds where gravity crushed bones and suns burned hotter than fear. At the center of the hall stood a single human. He looked small, not weak, just small, barely reaching the chest height of the being chained before him. She was massive, a warrior of the Karzun. Her skin was dark and stone-hard, her shoulders wide enough to block light. Her presence alone bent the air. She was known across systems as unbreakable, and the crowd laughed, not loudly at first, just whispers, clicks, low growls, shared amusement. "A human," someone said. "Why bring a human?" Another voice mocked. The council speaker rose, floating slightly above the floor, its many eyes focused on the pair. "The claim," the speaker said, "is absurd. A species this small cannot endure proximity, let alone relevance." The laughter grew. The Karzun female lifted her head and looked down at the human. Her expression held no hate, only certainty. "You are fragile," she said calmly. "Your bones break under pressure we call comfort. Your kind does not survive us." The human did not answer. He stood still, hands open, breathing slow. His name was Elias Kane. No armor, no weapon, no title spoken aloud. Just a man. The council displayed holograms around the hall. Images of humans struggling, fleeing, falling in old conflicts. Wars where they had lost planets. Evacuations under alien fire. The message was clear. Humans were survivors, yes, but survivors were not rulers. A sharp voice cut through the noise. One touch and he would shatter. Why test what is already known? Elias finally moved. Shed, not stepping back, not raising his hands, he stepped forward. The chains around the Karzun warrior tightened, energy fields flared, guards raised weapons, but Elias stopped just short of the barrier. He looked up at her face, really looked, not at her size, not at her strength, but at her eyes. There was surprise there, not fear, surprise that he was still standing. "You are too big," she said quietly, almost as a warning. "This will end badly for you." Elias nodded once. "I know," he said. The hall grew quiet, not because of his volume, but because of his calm. The council speaker tilted slightly. "Then why remain?" it asked. "Why challenge truth?" Elias turned toward the council, his voice steady, plain, human. "Because truth is not decided by size," he said, "and because walking away is easy." Murmurs spread again, some angry, some curious. The Karzun warrior flexed her wrists, testing the chains. "They sent you to fail," she said. "You understand that?" "Yes," Elias replied. "They always do." That answer did something strange to the room. The laughter did not return. Instead, doubt crept in, slow and unwelcome. The council speaker studied him longer this time. "You believe endurance equals worth," it said. "No," Elias answered. "I believe choice does." A few alien delegates shifted. Choice was a dangerous word in empires built on force. The speaker raised a limb. "The human will be allowed to remain. Observation only." The laughter did not return, but the danger did. After the council's decision, the chamber did not empty. Instead, it closed itself. Energy walls sealed the exits. Lights dimmed to a cold white glow. This was not permission. This was judgment delayed. Elias Kane stood exactly where he had been left, between the massive warrior and the watching galaxy, every eye still on him, not with humor now, but calculation. The council speaker floated forward again, its voice smoother, sharper. "Observation requires definition," it said. "The human will be tested." A ripple of approval moved through the delegates. Tests were familiar. Tests were controlled. Tests always broke the smaller ones. The Karzun warrior turned her head slightly toward Elias. Her chains hummed softly, tightening with each movement. "You should not have stayed," she said. "They will not stop." Elias did not answer her this time. His attention was on the council, on the invisible weight pressing down on him. "What kind of test?" he asked. The speaker gestured. The floor beneath Elias shimmered, data streams forming symbols in the air. "Endurance," the speaker replied. "Compliance. Adaptation." Simple words, dangerous meanings. A smaller delegate, insect-like and sharp-voiced, clicked loudly. "Humans adapt slowly," it said. "They survive by numbers, not strength." Images filled the air again. Human settlements under siege, cities evacuated, ships burning as they fled. Elias watched without blinking. He had seen these images before. "Not here, but in memory," the speaker continued. "You will remain within her presence. You will endure her environment. You will obey all safety restrictions." The Karzun warrior let out a low sound, something between a warning and regret. "My species' gravity alone will crush him," she said. "Your test is execution." The speaker tilted slightly. "Then, the result will be educational." That was when Elias spoke again. "You assume I am here to survive," he said. The hall paused. Even the displays froze for half a breath. The speaker's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Elias lifted his chin, not in pride, but resolve. "I am here to choose," he said. "If I fall, it is not because I was forced. It is because I stayed." Somewhere among the delegates, unease spread. Choice again. That word returned like a fracture in stone. The test began without ceremony. The gravity shifted first, slowly at first, then heavier, the air itself pressing down on Elias's chest. His knees bent slightly, his breath shortened. The Karzun warrior felt it too, but where it strained Elias, it barely registered to her. "You feel it now," she said quietly. "This is my normal." Elias nodded, sweat forming at his temples, muscles trembling, but he did not step back. Guards watched closely, medical scans flickered, numbers spiked into dangerous zones. "He will collapse," someone said, "any moment." But moments passed, then more. Elias adjusted his stance, shorter breaths, slower movements, his body learning, not resisting, but adapting. The council exchanged looks. This was not expected, not for long, but longer than predicted. The Karzun warrior studied him now, not as a curiosity, but as a problem. "Why do this?" she asked. "Your species avoids pain when it can." Elias looked up at her, vision blurring slightly, but his voice steady. "We avoid useless pain," he said. "This is not useless." Before she could reply, alarms sounded, sharp and urgent. "Environmental stress rising," a voice announced. "Human thresholds nearing failure." The speaker raised a limb. "Increase parameters," it ordered. The gravity deepened. The floor cracked slightly beneath Elias's boots. His breath hitched. The Karzun warrior pulled hard against her seat. Haynes. Energy flared violently. "Enough," she growled. "He has proven nothing you do not already know." The speaker ignored her. Knowledge requires completion. Elias felt darkness press at the edges of his sight. His body screamed for rest, for release. But he stayed, not because he was strong, but because leaving was not an option he would accept. When his knee finally touched the floor, the hall erupted with sound. "There!" someone shouted. "He breaks." But Elias did not fall forward. He caught himself, one hand pressed against the ground, breathing hard, still conscious. He looked up again. "I am still here," he said. The council did not answer immediately, and for the first time, the Karzun warrior felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. Concern. The judgment was no longer simple, and the test was far from over. The alarm slowly faded, but the pressure did not. The gravity eased just enough to keep Elias conscious, not enough to make standing easy. He remained on one knee, one hand on the cracked floor, breathing slow and controlled. Each breath felt heavy, like lifting weight inside his chest. Around him, the grand assembly watched in silence, not the mocking silence from before, but a careful one. The Karzun warrior lowered her head slightly to look at him more closely. Up close, she could see the strain in his neck, the tremor in his fingers, and still, he had not collapsed. "You should not still be awake," she said quietly. "This pressure breaks trained soldiers of my kind." Elias looked up, his vision still swimming. "I am trained," he said, "just differently." That answer unsettled more than it impressed. The council speaker drifted closer, its many eyes narrowing. "The human resists without enhancement," it said. "This is inefficient." Efficiency was a word the council trusted. It was also the reason entire species no longer existed. A tall delegate with armored limbs leaned forward. "This experiment is no longer symbolic," it said. "It carries risk." The speaker replied without warning. "Risk is acceptable." The Karzun warrior's chains tightened again, reacting to her rising pulse. She ignored the pain and focused on Elias. "You do not understand what comes next," she warned. "They will not stop at gravity." Elias shifted his weight carefully and pushed himself upright, slowly, painfully, but fully. His legs shook, but they held. "I understand enough," he said. "You test until something breaks." "And something always does," she replied. The council speaker raised a limb, and the air itself changed. Temperature dropped suddenly, sharp and biting, the floor frosted beneath Elias's boots. "This is only a warning phase," the speaker announced. "Adaptation will be measured." Cold tore through Elias's lungs with every breath. His teeth clenched, muscles tightening as his body fought to retain heat. Memories flashed in his mind, frozen evacuation zones, long nights without shelter, worlds abandoned, humans remembered cold. The Karzun warrior watched frost climb his clothing. "You should step back now," she said, her voice lower, more urgent. "Pride will kill you." Elias shook his head slightly. "This is not pride," he said. "It is presence." The word echoed strangely in the chamber. Presence meant little to empires, but it meant everything to those who had been erased. Sensors flashed again, human core temperature dropping, stability failing. The council speaker waited, watching, measuring, calculating the moment of collapse. But Elias adapted again. Shorter breaths, slower movement, conserving energy. His body curled inward just enough to shield vital areas. The Karzun warrior felt something tighten inside her, not anger, not fear, recognition. "This one endures," she said. "Endurance is not weakness." The speaker finally turned toward her. "You are assigned as observer," it said. "Do not interfere." Her jaw tightened. "You mistake observation for detachment," she replied. The cold reached its peak. Elias's vision darkened at the edges again, but still he did not fall. Then the pressure vanished all at once. The frost melted, the gravity normalized. Elias staggered but stayed standing. The sudden release almost worse than the test itself. The council speaker spoke again. Phase 1 complete. Murmurs filled the chamber, confusion mixed with unease. Predictions had been wrong twice now. The Karzun warrior leaned closer, lowering her voice so only Elias could hear. "You are walking toward something you cannot see," she said. "They will push you until your limits become a lesson." Elias met her gaze, steady despite exhaustion. "Then let them learn," he replied. For the first time since she had been chained, she smiled, not wide, not cruel, but sharp. The warning had been given and ignored. The council believed control was still theirs. They did not yet understand. Humans did not need permission to endure. They only needed a reason. The chamber did not return to normal. It changed. The smooth floor split apart and reshaped itself. Metal plates shifted, walls pulled back, revealing a deeper space beneath the assembly hall. This was no longer a debate room. This was a proving ground. Elias felt the change before it was announced. The air grew dry, thin, hard to breathe. Each breath scraped his throat. The council speaker's voice echoed from above. "Observation phase complete," it said. "Testing phase begins." The Karzan warrior's chains retracted slightly, enough to let her stand fully, not enough to free her. "You should not be here," she said again, this time without anger, without warning, only truth. Elias wiped frost and sweat from his face. His hands shook briefly, then steadied. "I am already here," he replied. The floor beneath him dropped without warning, not a fall. A sudden shift in gravity direction. Elias was thrown sideways, slamming into a metal surface. Pain flashed through his shoulder. He gasped, air torn from his lungs. Before he could recover, the gravity flipped again. Down became sideways. Sideways became up. His body was hurled across the chamber, catching himself just before hitting the wall, fingers slipping, barely holding. "Orientation stress test," the speaker announced. "Species without spatial adaptation fail quickly." Blood trickled from Elias's lip. He tasted iron, focused on one thing, breathing. The Karzun warrior watched closely, her fists clenched, chains humming loudly. "Enough," she said. "He will tear himself apart. He will adapt," the speaker replied calmly. Gravity reversed again, harder this time. Elias hit the floor on his back, the impact knocking the air from him. For a moment, the room spun, his vision blurred, darkness pressed in. He remembered training rooms on damaged ships, zero-gravity drills, emergency rotations, humans leer. Ning to move where rules failed. Slowly, painfully, he rolled onto his side, then his stomach, then his knees. Instead of fighting the shifts, he waited for them, timed his movements between changes. When gravity flipped again, he was ready, catching himself mid-shift, landing in a crouch. Murmurs spread through the observers. "This is inefficient movement," one said. "It wastes energy." "No," another replied. "It conserves survival." The environment changed again. Heat surged suddenly, brutal and dry, the metal floor glowing faintly red. Elias cried out as the heat burned through his boots. He moved fast now, not graceful, not clean, but alive. "Temperature spike introduced," the speaker announced. "Failure expected." The Karzun warrior stepped forward as far as her chains allowed. "Stop this," she demanded. "You are not measuring strength." "We are measuring limits," the speaker replied. Elias tore a strip of fabric from his sleeve and wrapped it around his boot. Crude, imperfect, effective. He moved again, every step hurting, every breath burning. Sweat poured down his face. His body screamed to quit, to fall, to let go. But he did not. The heat vanished suddenly, replaced by crushing pressure. Gravity slammed down hard, harder than before. Elias dropped to one knee, then both. His hands slammed into the floor to keep himself upright, bones strained, muscles shaking violently. This was the breaking point they had calculated. The Karzun warrior roared and pulled against her chains. Energy flared wildly. "End it!" she shouted. "He has nothing left." Elias lifted his head, teeth clenched, eyes unfocused, but his voice still came out. "I am still choosing," he said. The words cut deeper than force. The speaker hesitated for the first time. Data streams flickering wildly, human endurance curves exceeding predictions. The pressure eased slightly. "Why not mercy?" Recalculation. Elias collapsed forward onto his hands, breathing hard, still conscious, still present. Silence filled the chamber again, not mocking, not curious, but disturbed. The Karzun warrior looked down at him, and for the first time she believed he might survive what came next. The test had not ended, but something else had begun. The chamber did not reset after the test. It remained tense, alert, watching. Elias lay on the floor where the pressure had left him. His chest rose and fell in shallow, careful breaths, each breath a choice, not a reflex. Medical scans hovered above him, numbers flashing in warning colors, then stabilizing slowly. The council speaker did not speak at first. It watched the data, recalculating assumptions it did not want to change. The Karzun warrior knelt as far as her chains allowed, her massive form casting a shadow over Elias. She did not touch him. She did not need to. "You should be broken," she said quietly. "There is no reason you should still be alive." Elias opened his eyes halfway. The ceiling lights blurred together. "I ran out of reasons a long time ago," he said. "Now I just decide." That answer stayed with her, not because it was clever, but because it was true. The speaker finally moved, drifting closer. "The human's condition remains unstable," it said. "Continuation increases risk beyond acceptable margins." A murmur spread through the delegates. This was not concern. This was inconvenience. The Karzun warrior lifted her head sharply. "You have your data," she said. "You have your proof. End this." The speaker turned toward her. "You are not authorized to issue commands," it replied. "I am authorized to observe," she said. "And I am observing cruelty disguised as science." The word cruelty unsettled the chamber. Empires preferred cleaner language. Elias pushed himself onto his side slowly, muscles protesting, vision dim, but his focus locked onto one thing, her voice. "You do not have to argue," he said. "They will not listen." She looked down at him. "Surprised, you speak as if this is familiar." "It is," Elias replied. "My kind has been measured many times," the council speaker interrupted. "Testing will continue under modified parameters. Subject interaction approved." That caused a stir. Interaction meant risk. Risk meant variables. The chains around the Karzun warrior loosened slightly, not enough to free her, enough to move closer. She shifted her position carefully, lowering herself to the floor beside Elias. The contrast was stark, her massive frame beside his battered one. "You should fear me," she said. "Your people do." Elias turned his head toward her. Up close now, her presence was overwhelming. Heat, weight, strength, but also control. "I do not fear what chooses restraint," he said. That made her pause. No one had ever said that to her before. Around them, the chamber watched in silence. This was not part of the test plan. She extended one finger carefully, stopping short of touching him. "One wrong movement and I could end you," she said. "I know," Elias replied. "That is why it matters that you have not." The speaker's voice cut in sharply. "Maintain distance," it ordered. The Karzun warrior ignored it, her attention fixed on the human who refused to beg, refused to retreat. "Why stay?" she asked again. "Why endure this?" Elias closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. "Because someone has to stand where we are told not to," he said. "Otherwise, the story never changes." That answer did something dangerous. It made sense. The chamber's lights dimmed slightly as systems adjusted, threat levels recalculated, predictions quietly rewritten. The speaker hesitated again. Another first. Observation will continue, it said finally. Subject recovery period authorized. Guards stepped back, weapons lowered. Not trust, but uncertainty. The Karzun warrior slowly stood, chains racing with her. She looked down at Elias one last time. "You are not strong," she said, "but you are difficult to erase." Elias managed a faint smile. That has always been enough. As medical drones moved in, and the chamber began to shift once more, one truth settled quietly among the observers. This was no longer just a test of endurance. It was the beginning of a bond no one had planned for, and bonds were far more dangerous than strength. Recovery was not rest. It was a pause between storms. Elias lay on a narrow medical platform at the edge of the chamber. Bands of soft light scanned his body again and again, repairing small damage, holding larger wounds in place. He was awake the entire time, not because he wanted to be, but because sleep felt unsafe. Across the chamber, the Karzun warrior stood in silence, her chains now decorative more than restrictive, a signal to the council that control still existed, at least in appearance. The council speaker gathered the delegates into a tighter formation, voices dropped low, sharp, urgent. "This interaction was a mistake," one delegate hissed. "The human influences her judgment." Another replied quickly, "The data is valuable. Emotional response is irrelevant." "It is never irrelevant," a third snapped. "Not when it spreads." The speaker raised a limb for silence. "The human survival has altered perception," it said. "Perception alters balance. Balance was everything. Empires did not fall from war alone. They fell when stories changed." The Karzun warrior listened without pretending not to. "They are afraid," she said calmly, "not of him, of what he represents." Elias turned his head slightly toward her voice. He could not see her clearly, but he heard the certainty in her tone. "You should distance yourself," she continued, addressing the council. "End this, while you still control the ending." The speaker's eyes narrowed. "Your concern is noted." It said, "It will not influence outcome." That was a lie. They already knew it. The lights in the chamber dimmed further. Security fields adjusted. Barriers slid into new positions. Elias felt the shift immediately. Not physical, intentional. He sat up slowly, ignoring the sharp protest from his body. "This is where it turns," he said quietly. The Karzun warrior looked at him sharply. "You sense it too," she said. "They are done testing," Elias replied. "Now they are deciding how to erase the mistake." A sharp tone echoed through the chamber. "Containment protocol approved," announced an automated voice. Guards moved, not toward the exits, toward Elias. The speaker did not look at him. "The human's continued presence destabilizes the environment," it said. "Removal is necessary." The word removal was chosen carefully. It sounded clean. Final. The Karzun warrior stepped forward instantly. Chains clanged loudly as she moved. "You will not touch him," she said. Her voice was low, dangerous. "You will stand aside," the speaker replied. "This is not your domain." "It became my domain when you used him as a tool," she said. Weapons powered up, energy fields flared, the chamber filled with the sound of systems preparing for violence. Elias slid off the platform and stood, slowly, deliberately, every movement costing him. "Do not," she warned him. "Stay behind me." Elias shook his head. "If I do that," he said, "you become the threat, and they win." He took one step forward, then another, placing himself in clear view of the council. "I am not an error," he said. "I am a result." The speaker turned at last. "You are a variable we no longer require," it said. Too late, Elias replied. You already changed the equation. For a moment, no one moved. The entire chamber balanced on a single decision. Then the Karzun warrior did something no one expected. She lowered herself slightly, not in submission, in alignment. She stood beside Elias, not in front of him, not behind him, with him. A shockwave of reaction spread through the delegates. Alliance, public, visible. The speaker's voice sharpened. You defy direct authority, it said. Yes, she replied simply. And I accept the consequences. Silence fell again, heavy, dangerous. Elias looked up at her. You do not have to do this, he said. She looked back down at him. You stayed, she said. So will I. The council retreated into rapid, silent communication, emergency signals flashing across private channels. They had wanted to study a human. Instead, they had triggered loyalty, and loyalty was something their systems were never designed to control. The backlash had begun, and there would be no clean way out. The chamber did not erupt into chaos. It froze. Emergency systems waited for confirmation. Weapons stayed powered, but unfired. Everyone understood what one wrong move would mean. Elias felt the shift in the air, not physical, political. This is the point of no return, he said quietly. No one asked who he was speaking to. The council speaker finally signaled the guards to halt. Stand down, it ordered. Temporary. Temporary was not peace. It was preparation. You misunderstand the scale of this, the speaker said. Your species has no leverage here. Elias looked up, steady despite exhaustion. That is where you are wrong, he replied. The chamber lights dimmed again. Not by command, by override. Screens across the hall flickered to life. Human symbols appeared, not aggressive, not threatening, just present. A low murmur spread. How are they accessing our systems? This network is sealed. Elias did not smile. Humans rarely did when plans finally worked. We do not break walls, he said. We wait for cracks. Data streams flooded the displays, supply chains mapped out, energy dependencies highlighted, communication relays blinking warning red, not attacks, revelations. The Karzun warrior felt it then, the weight of it, not force, understanding. You studied them, she said. Yes, Elias replied. Every species does something better than us, but none of you plan for patience. The speaker's voice tightened. This is interference, it said. This is conversation, Elias replied. Across the chamber, delegates whispered urgently. Human logistics appeared simple, but unstoppable. They do not threaten our fleets, one delegate said. They threaten our systems. Another replied, that is worse. The Karzun warrior stepped forward, her presence now protective rather than restrained. You wanted proof of value, she said. This is it. The speaker turned to her sharply. You risk your people, it warned. I risk stagnation if I do not, she replied. Elias took another step forward. This ends now, he said. Not with dominance, but with clarity. He gestured toward the displays. Every human world here was once written off. Too small, too weak. Images changed, rebuilt cities, trade corridors, medical outposts in hostile space. We survive where others retreat, Elias continued, not because we are stronger, but because we refuse to disappear, the Council S. Speaker paused, processing, recalculating. You are asking for status, it said. I am offering partnership, Elias replied. That word sent shockwaves through the chamber. Partnership implied equality. Equality threatened hierarchy. Weapons powered down slowly, not out of trust, out of uncertainty. The Karzun warrior turned toward Elias. You planned this, she said quietly. Yes, he replied. but I did not plan for you. That admission mattered. The speaker spoke again, lower now, less certain. Humanity will be granted provisional recognition, it said, under observation. Elias shook his head. No, he said. Observation already happened. Silence struck hard. You will recognize us, Elias continued, or you will learn how much of your structure rests on our cooperation. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then the speaker withdrew its limbs slightly, a gesture of reluctant acknowledgement. The Karzun warrior straightened, chains unlocking fully for the first time. The chamber did not cheer. It recalibrated. Humanity had not fired a weapon, had not made a threat. They had simply arrived prepared, and the galaxy realized something too late. Humans were never waiting for permission. They were waiting for the right moment. Recognition did not bring relief. It brought fear. The chamber felt smaller now, not because the walls had moved, but because the balance inside them had shifted. The council speaker withdrew slightly, its posture no longer absolute, its voice carefully measured. Provisional status alters existing frameworks, it said. Such changes require compensation. Elias understood the word instantly. Compensation meant control under a different name. You want a price, he said. You always do. The Karzun warrior turned her head slowly, her gaze sweeping across the delegates. They fear losing what they never earned, she said. A sharp reply came from a crystalline delegate. Your alliance clouds your judgment, it said. You endanger your species. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. My species survived extinction, she replied. It will survive truth. The chamber stirred again, not loud, but restless. Security fields shifted positions, subtle, quiet, like hands moving closer to concealed blades. Elias noticed. Humans always noticed when rooms grew quiet in the wrong way. This is where you try to take something back, he said, because you think strength only moves in one direction. The speaker's eyes flickered. You mistake caution for weakness, it replied. Elias shook his head slightly. No, he said, I mistake habit for imagination. Without warning, the displays changed again. Not human data this time. Council records, hidden agreements, unspoken rules. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Trade manipulations, resource restrictions, species quietly limited to remain dependent. The Karzun warrior felt her chest tighten. You did this, she said, to all of us. The speaker reacted instantly. Unauthorized access, it declared. Terminate feed. But the feed did not end. It spread, mirrored itself across every display. Elias spoke, calmly. We did not steal this, he said. You gave it away through patterns. Delegates turned on one another, accusations rising fast, trust cracking under sudden light. This is destabilization, someone shouted. This is sabotage. No, Elias replied. This is exposure. The Karzun warrior stepped forward again, now fully unchained, her presence no longer restrained by symbols. You judged worth by obedience, she said. You limited growth to preserve comfort, and you called it order. The speaker's voice lowered. Order prevents collapse, it said. Order prevents change, she replied. The chamber split into factions without anyone announcing it. Those who clung to control, those who saw opportunity. Elias felt the moment crest. This was the edge where stories broke or transformed. You cannot put this back, he said to the speaker. You cannot unsee it. The speaker paused longer than ever before, calculations racing, outcomes branching. Finally it spoke. Structural review will be initiated, it said. Council authority will be redistributed. The words landed hard. Redistribution meant loss. The Karzun warrior closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. "This is not mercy," she said. "This is survival." Elias turned toward her. "You changed more than you know," he said. She looked down at him. "And you stayed longer than anyone expected." Around them, systems powered down from combat readiness, not because peace was certain, but because war was no longer useful. The speaker addressed the chamber one final time. "Humanity will be recognized as an independent stabilizing force," it said, "not subordinate." A quiet shock moved through the delegates. Stabilizing force meant influence without chains. Elias exhaled slowly, not victory, but momentum. The Karzun warrior placed herself beside him again, not as shield, not as weapon, as essence. The reversal was complete, not because power changed hands, but because the story did, and stories, once rewritten, never return to their original form. The assembly hall did not celebrate. It remembered. Long after the delegates departed and the lights dimmed, the chamber stayed active, recording every word, every pause, every choice. History was being archived, and history did not care about comfort. Elias stood near the center of the hall, his body still marked by pain, but his posture steady, unmoved. Around him, systems recalibrated to a new reality, security protocols rewritten, authority layers adjusted. The council speaker remained, smaller now in presence, less certain in tone. "You have altered a long-standing equilibrium," it said. "Such disruption carries consequences." Elias nodded once. "It always does," he replied. "That is how progress works." The Karzun warrior stood beside him. No chains, no restraints, only choice. "My people will be questioned," she said calmly. "They will accuse me of betrayal." "They accused us too," Elias replied. "When we refused to vanish," the speaker observed them both. "Your alliance is inefficient," it said. "Emotion complicates structure." "Yes," Elias agreed. "That is why it survives." Across the galaxy, messages began to spread. Not broadcasts, not threats, stories. Stories of a human who did not retreat, of a warrior who chose to stand beside him, of a council forced to listen. On distant worlds, young species listened carefully. They heard something new, not fear, possibility. The Karzun warrior looked down at Elias. "You never asked for protection," she said. "I never wanted control," he replied. "I wanted room to exist." That answer would echo longer than any speech. The speaker initiated final protocol. "Humanity will be recorded as a sovereign equal," it said. "Not dominant, not subordinate, equal." The word felt strange in the chamber, heavy, unfamiliar. Elias exhaled slowly, the tension leaving him in pieces. He had not expected rely of only completion. "This is not the end," the speaker said. "It is a beginning." Elias smiled faintly. That is usually how legends start. The Karzun warrior tilted her head slightly. "You believe they will tell this story?" she asked. "They already are," Elias replied. "Far beyond the assembly, in quiet human systems, rebuilt from loss, ships continued to fly. Cities continued to grow. Humans did not cheer, they prepared. They had learned long ago that respect was temporary. Only vigilance lasted. The Karzun warrior watched the stars through the great windows. "My people thought strength was size," she said. "They were wrong." Elias followed her gaze. "Strength is choosing not to let go," he said. Silence settled between them. Not empty, complete. The council speaker began to withdraw into the upper levels. Its role diminished, its certainty fractured. Before leaving, it spoke one final time. "The galaxy will remember this moment," it said. Elias did not answer. He did not need to. The legend had already escaped the room. It traveled through trade routes and data streams, through whispered warnings and quiet hope. It said this: humans are small, humans are fragile, but humans endure. And when the galaxy tried to push them away, they stayed, not to conquer, not to rule, but to be seen, and that was enough. Failure will be final. A sentence disguised as permission. The Karzun warrior exhaled slowly. You should leave, she said one last time. There will be pain. Elias looked up at her again. I know, he said, but I will not let go. That was when something changed. Not in the room, not in the council, but in her eyes. For the first time, she did not see prey. She did not see weakness. She saw defiance. And somewhere far beyond the hall, in quiet human systems that no one watched anymore, history leaned forward, listening. If you enjoy slow-build HFY science fiction stories like this, please consider subscribing to the channel so you do not miss what comes next. The mockery had ended. The test had begun.